It's now time for this month's broadcast of Learning Now TV.
Welcome to the new look Learning Now television. Obviously, with the current pandemic situation, our studios are closed, but your fearless team are bringing you Learning Now TV from the comfort of our own homes instead. So Nigel, what have we got on?
Got a lot of helpful stuff. I sincerely hope lots of useful information from a lot of smart, engaged and committed people. But the highlights, three highlights. The one is that Learning News have been talking to a whole bunch of learning leaders about how they're coping with the current pandemic. So some really interesting insights from Learning News. Plus regular contributor Laurie Niels-Hoffman on things to do and things not to do. Probably I should emphasize that, things not to do rather than anything else. And finally, Robin Hoyle, back again, the irrepressible, irascible Robin Hoyle with another take on what L&D suppliers should be doing with their L&D research money currently. Enjoy the show.
Enjoy the show. This month, the tables are turning. So rather than being in the hot seat asking the questions, it's me asking my co-host, Nigel Payne, the questions. And that is because, obviously, we are facing unprecedented, the word keeps being thrown around, extraordinary times in the background of this COVID-19 pandemic. And rather than just ignore it or brush it under the carpet and not talk about it and just talk about L&D stuff like we normally do, we wanted to actually unpack what this means for L&D, where the challenges lie and where the opportunities lie. And who better to talk to us about that than Nigel? So
thank you, Kate.
Hey, you're in the hot seat today.
I am.
So what are you seeing organisations doing? You know, it's been about a month now, really, since this kicked in for the West. You know, what are you seeing in terms of the impact of this on organisations and more specifically their learning and development teams?
I think organisations have reacted in different ways, Kate. I wish I could say there was a kind of unanimity and uniformity of action. And those actions stretch from unbelievably brilliant to, I think, unbelievably stupid and willful, bad behaviour. And for L&D, the three reactions, the worst is goodbye L&D. And that's happening. That's definitely happening in a number of organisations where they're saying, hey, we can't run any programs, so we just do without you for the time being. We may rebuild it in 6 months or 9 months or whenever we get round to it. That's the most negative behaviour. But the second reaction is almost as bad. And the second reaction is, hey, you're the guys who know about this stuff. Get everyone online. So you're the ones who focus on getting the entire organisation to be trained. You're the one who handles all the problems and you're the one who makes yourself available. Plus, we need to have those courses put online as well. So just ridiculous amount of pressure on a few people struggling to do it all remotely and often without direct connection with the IT infrastructure. So they they're really having a lot of trouble at the moment and not delivering in the way that they're supposed to. The third group, I think, are the ones who are doing it best. And they're saying, right, okay, let's all come together using our different expertise to work out what the organization needs. So some of that is about helping people with remote working. Some of it is about key learning needs, but maybe not a lot of key learning needs at the moment, apart from getting everyone up to speed with remote working. And let's do that by sharing our expertise. Because the idea that the L&D team are the only ones who know how to work remotely is ridiculous. There are plenty of experts dotted around the organization. Let's bring them together. Let's facilitate. Let's share our knowledge. And let's get L&D helping us strategically do what's necessary today and also help us rebuild tomorrow. That's the way it should be, so that L&D becomes at the heart of the rebuilding, not out of the organization or being expected to manage the entire catastrophe as it unfurls for the organizations. So 3 very, very distinct reactions, and not all good news by any means.
And how do you think then, if people are aspiring to maybe be in that third group, how should they be going about it? By now, sort of 4 weeks in, 5 weeks in now, they've maybe helped set their teams up to work remotely and done some of those initial things you talked about. What's next? What should they be looking at, and how practically can they help their organizations move forward? Because, as you rightly say, nobody has all the answers right now.
They don't. I think there's a massive support infrastructure needed for staff. That the idea that people thrown out of their organization, working from home, often with kids, partners, dogs, sometimes with poor communication, working off kitchen tables, working in bedrooms in the corner. All of those people need a lot of support. And I think that the organization shouldn't see L&D as something separate, but as a very useful resource, along with HR and other support, IT and other support infrastructures, to problem solve. They should be meeting regularly as a kind of overall executive, people executive, if you like, saying what's working, what's not working, what are the problems, how do we communicate better, how do we support better. These are issues which have to be dealt with. Which group could solve those issues? Which group could solve another group of issues, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that organizations who draw on the resources across the organization are doing so much better than organizations saying, right, you're L&D, focus on L&D. You're HR, focus on HR. You're something else, focus on that. Whereas often when you're talking to individual staff, they're not saying, oh, that's a training issue, that's an L&D issue, that's an IT issue. They're just saying, help me. I need to be able to do useful work, and I'm struggling at the moment. So it's those organizations who are pooling their resources, not separating their resources, that seem to me to be flying at the moment, and getting the respect of staff generally. People saying, yes, these people care about me. But there's also a lot of reaction with people saying, they don't care. They just don't care. I'm just cost. I never thought before, I've been here 5 years and I'm just cost. So that's going to have lots of reverberations and a lot of consequences when we go back to something approaching normal. So there's some real issues there.
So it's not just about a rush to digitize content.
No, it's absolutely not. And I think those organizations that have said we got 1,700 decks of PowerPoint, let's just stick them in Articulate, that'll solve all the problems. They're doing the worst of all, because there's just huge pushback. People have got enough problems without going through yet another deck of PowerPoint.
Do you see it as almost a compressed cycle of what we've been through in maybe the last 10 or 15 years, where there's this sort of rush to digitize everything, and then it's not very good, and then everybody be so delighted when they get a chance to get back into the classroom that they'll want to do that. And I see it almost as like the cycle that we've been through as an industry in microcosm.
It's kind of is like that, but I also think that what it's helping the organization focus on are, what do people really need to be able to do good work? So let's start with the end in mind, enabling people to do good work in these circumstances and work back from there, rather than the opposite, which is let's get lots of courses online. That's my job. I have to get lots of courses. I can't do them face to face. So I think less panic, more strategy, more focus on what people need in the moment. And I really hope that endures, that we don't get content mad, content crazy L&D, and we focus on how we can support people in whatever circumstances they find themselves.
And how are we at Learning Now TV? Obviously, we're changing it up. How are we going to share some of this stuff? Just talk to our viewers a little bit about how the program is going to change over the next couple of months in response to this crisis.
Well, we really want to share the insights from people who are doing it well, and the insights from people who've been doing this for a long time, who've been working remotely for many, many years, from L&D teams that are more tech developed, that have gone through the digital transformation. And we want people to share their tips and to problem solve for everyone else. So I suppose we're doing what I've just said that L&D should do. We're turning Learning Now TV into a resource to solve the immediate problems, not a kind of let's look 20 years ahead, or let's look at this deep piece of technology that will be useful in 5 years' time. We're saying, here's a here and now. We've got some great people doing great work. Let us share that with you. That's the essence of what we're doing. So therefore, it's going to be more regular, twice a month, not once a month, and lots of short, sharp case studies.
Fantastic. Nigel, thank you for unpacking that for us. And I'm looking forward to delving into some of these stories and hearing about some of this kind of first response during this pandemic over the next few months.
It's a pleasure. Thanks very much, Kate. I enjoyed being interviewed by you. Thank you very much.
We'll do it again soon.
We will do it again soon. Thank you.
Our learning experiences unlock potential, transform the performance of people and organisations, and help millions around the world build happy and successful careers. We change lives with evidence-based learning that works, sparking real change for real impact.
Our regular correspondent from Canada, Laurie Niles Hoffman, shares with us this week a list of things to do, but possibly more importantly, what not to do in current tough times.
Hi everyone, I hope when you're watching this video you're someplace safe with your family and loved ones, and that you're very healthy. Right now, this is Laurie Niles Hoffman. I'm on day 12 of my quarantine here in Toronto, and this time period and watching the events rapidly change in the world has given me a lot of pause for thought, and in particular thinking about ourselves as an industry. And the more that I look at it, the more that I see that education and information, the right information spread quickly, is one of the best weapons that we have about what is currently going on with COVID-19. And so I wanted to put together and share with you some things that I think we should stop doing and things we should be doing. So when it comes to the things to stop, I'm often reminded of the situation that occurred earlier, or last year rather, in Australia with the devastating fires that they had there. And an initiative started where people said that koalas, they had burned their paws and they were suffering injuries, and please could people knit mittens for them. And while there's nothing cuter than imagining a poor suffering koala being comforted by mittens, it ended up that thousands of people did this to the point where people trying to fight fires and worry about their own livelihood now were inundated with mountains of wool and acrylic that they didn't need, and suddenly they had another problem to deal with. And combine that with the time, effort, and even just the postal service delivering these packages, it was a waste, a well-meaning waste, but it still was a waste. And so I think that us in L&D really need to think about where we're putting our time and efforts. So the first thing I would say is don't be building any COVID-19 courses. Curate that several times a day from the experts. It's changing too fast. If you're building an e-learning course, it's already out of date. And so leave that to the experts as they too are learning what's happening. The other thing I would say too is if you're working on any large curricula to translate into digital, I know that's our temptation to do that right now, but I think we need to look at the immediate situation and where we're going to have the most impact. So maybe that leadership course that's going to be, finished in 6 months, that's not the priority. Priority right now is more about getting information out to people in an accurate and succinct way, which comes to another point of mine, which would be courses. Anything you're building in a course right now, I know we love them, but we probably want to consider other media forms that don't need to go through lengthy Q&A, things that like articles, videos, although with videos, I would urge you also to really be looking to IT to guide you on what the bandwidth and technology restrictions are of people. You don't want to throttle the network. But nevertheless, thinking of things like infographics, PDFs, things that can be rapidly deployed and don't need to have that detailed Q&A. Trust me, there'll be a time when we go back to doing courses, but maybe right now is not the time. With that also too, I would really say you got to make friends with marketing and communications. Think of that employee on the other side. They're going through so much right now. You need to make sure that there is a steady stream of accurate information getting to them and it's not coming from multiple sources. Marketing and comms are experts in that. You also don't want to duplicate efforts with what they're already doing. And in some cases, I hate to say it, they may already be doing it really, really well, and it's better for us to get out of the way. In terms also too of how people are accessing your content, I know you love your learning platform, especially if you just made an investment, say in a new LXP. If your daily active users is less than 80%, that's probably not going to be a place you want to push your information. You're going to want to push it to where people are already going. We're seeing right now there's huge upsurge in people using Teams. Maybe that's a better place for your content. So it's where people actually need it and will see it. They don't need to log in and search. I know that means putting down our egos, but sometimes I think we have to do this. I think also too, you really need to think of a plan of how to decommission content that's out of date. Things are changing so rapidly. So make sure that you're taking down that information just as rigorously as you're putting up new information. I also say too, maybe your team needs to think laterally about their skills. I mentioned that we're probably not going to do a lot of Q&A with modules. Well, maybe that means that Q&A people become content curators or learning community managers. All of these things are skills that we ourselves are going to have to learn rapidly. We may not do them perfectly, but it's a better effort. And I think also too, it's focused on the execution or on the accuracy rather than the execution. Meaning, I know we love perfection and multiple iterations, but you know what? Get the content out that's correct and get it out fast. And it may look, not as pretty as you would have liked it. It may not have that perfect, pixabay image on it, but I think we can live without those luxuries in an effort to do what's best. And lastly, we have incredible skills that actually are needed right now. Now is the time to volunteer them. I myself personally am, and I know others are. We are experts in how to upskill people, and this is going to be a rapid time for us to roll up our sleeves and get involved, so long as it's adding to the greater good. So with that, be healthy, be safe, be well, and I look forward to seeing all of you sometime in the future when this is past.
What's it like to be a learning professional under lockdown with a young family and a partner working from home at the same time? Well, we've got 24 hours in the life of Henrietta Kloets, based in Holland. Henrietta shares with us the trials and tribulations from the minute she gets up until the minute she goes to sleep the following night. 24 hours in the life of Henrietta Klutz. Enjoy it.
So here's 24 hours in the life of an L&D professional in quarantine with 2 tiny kids. Half of my makeup is gone, as you can tell. I've just spent 7 minutes or maybe 10 reading my book, which I really don't have time for these days. So I was pretty happy. And I'm up for the final bottle feeding of the day. Which is always a toughie because you need to stay up or sleep for 1 hour. But today I've decided to stay up and read a book. And I'm going to do the last bottle, which also means to get some extra cuddle time while everyone is sleeping. And then hopefully get about 7 or maybe even 8 hours of sleep. I've decided to record this to let you know what it is like to do 24 hours as a learning professional with 2 tiny kids. So I'll see you in the morning. So it's 7 in the morning. When you have 2 kids, you don't need an alarm clock. You get woken up by one of them, usually. I have to say it's the quarantine makes it as if we're working around the clock 24 hours because there's no stopping and there's absolutely no time for something else than working kids. So in the morning I usually have a little bit of trouble getting out of bed, but I have this tiny human that helps me to get out of bed. Doesn't want to be in the video. So we'll get up, have breakfast, shower, and then work starts again. So I think one of the benefits of being in quarantine has been that we get to rethink some of our habits. One of them for me has been that I've been eating 2 slices of bread with chocolate sprinkles for about 35 years. And I've decided to change that, also to stay healthy in this period of time. So every morning I'm making myself smoothies with 50% veggies and 50% fruit. And it's actually been great. So before you think you can actually enjoy your breakfast smoothie, this one decided to fill up her diaper. So first things first, smoothies later. Because I'm an independent consultant, I have my home as my home base anyways. So we're quite lucky that we have an office in our home. I see a lot of people working from home at the kitchen table or in their kids' bedroom and stuff. We're very lucky. We have an office that is separate from our living area. We do have to switch desks, obviously, because we're both working from here now. But it's actually a relatively quiet place that sometimes gets disturbed by a toddler who can't wait. So I'm in my office, it's 8:30. I'm already half an hour late. Which means that I probably have to catch up on stuff over the weekend. But you have babies and toddlers to deal with. That's what it is. I wanted to tell you a little bit more about the situation here in the Netherlands. So what we have here is what our Prime Minister calls a intelligent lockdown, which means that you're not completely in quarantine 100% of the time. We can go outside. We just have restrictions to go outside. So it's we can go outside as much as we want, but we cannot do it in groups. It can only be 2 people. If it's 3 or more, you'll get a penalty unless you're a family. So if you're a family, you can go out as a group. And if you go out and you see other people, you have to keep a distance of 1.5 meters. To make sure that people do not all get sick at the same time. That's the reason why the Prime Minister is doing it like this. He wants to build up group immunity to make sure that we slow down the pace in which the entire Netherlands gets infected with the coronavirus to make sure that the ICU can still handle it. So that's the reason that we're not in 100% isolation situation. So I think for us, that's been the biggest impact. And of course, we worry. We worry not only for the short term, but also for the long term. Will we be able to keep our jobs and our assignments? So far, my clients have stayed and are asking even for more work to get into online learning quicker, which is very good news, and I'm very pleased with that. But we never know what financial crisis is going to hit us afterwards, which has already started for some of the freelancers here in the Netherlands. Als iedereen weer beter is. Hè?
Maar ik wil thuis zwemmen.
Oh, ga je thuis zwemmen?
Zwem.
Ik zie het. So the idea was that we were going for a very quick lap into the forest near our home. That didn't happen because we're building tree houses, collecting branches, we're doing all sorts of stuff. In the meantime, I've got an email from a client that I do need to answer today. So that's the restlessness that normally doesn't exist on a day when I'm home with the kids. It's something that is really part of this current situation.
Mama, wat zoek jij?
So while I'm finishing off some work for this week, I'm also looking ahead for next week and saw in my calendar that I need to go to the dentist on Monday to get a cavity fixed. And just called them and they said that as of Monday, all treatments are canceled at the dentist. So that means that they won't be able to treat anyone unless you have a very urgent emergency until the end of April at least. So that's an interesting turn of events. So before bedtime, I also check our schedule. I don't know if you know this about the Dutch culture, but Dutchies plan ahead for months. If you want to schedule something socially, you have to be like weeks in advance to schedule it. So this whole ad hoc working that we're now in is quite unfamiliar to us. So what we've done to get a little bit control over the situation is we're making schedules per week, my husband and I. So you can take a look here. So for tomorrow, that means that my shift is from 8 in the morning until 1. And then we do a shift change and my husband takes over until 6 and then we all have dinner. And whatever is left is done in the evening. And we usually schedule this around the calls that we have or the meetings that we already have. So early start for me tomorrow morning behind the laptop. I'm not a morning person, so the afternoon shift is usually better for me. But hey, we'll work our way around it. It is 8:15 in the evening, and that's a wrap. 24 hours in the life of a learning professional with 2 tiny kids in quarantine. I'm exhausted. It took us over an hour to get all of these into bed simply because we've given her something to play with in the garden and we had given her that after dinner. Rookie mistake. So she was all hyped up. But now everyone is in bed except for my husband. He has a Skype drinks with friends. So I've taken the opportunity to go to bed myself too. Catch up on a little bit of reading, hopefully, because I might fall asleep soon. And then I have one more bottle feeding at 11. So that really would make it 24 hours in the life of a learning professional. I've actually quite enjoyed sharing some of my stories today with you guys. It's been a highlight in a very boring couple of weeks. So thank you for that. And I'd like to say stay safe, stay healthy, stay indoors. And I hope to see you all face to face really, really soon. Bye.
DPG's online courses are designed to fit around your life, so you can study anytime, anywhere. Get in touch now for more info.
So I'm delighted to welcome back Danny Seals, experienced architect, design strategist, art GP, and obviously you've got your own MindChimp podcast and community as well. So thank you for joining us again. This was originally supposed to be a follow-up to our discussion about experience design, but there has been quite a big global event happened since then, which interestingly you have talked to me a bit about the impact of that on experience design. And you've been quite vocal on social media about the impact of this and the opportunity that L&D might be missing here. So we wanted to just get into that a little bit with you. And I know there's a diagram which we can hopefully share with the viewers, but what is your take on the current state of things, given this extraordinary situation we find ourselves in with COVID-19?
It's a good question, right? And I think there's lots and lots of people trying to answer the same thing. The way I kind of see it is basically you've got 3 key stages, right? So you've got what's happening right now in COVID, and then you've got post-COVID, and then you've got essentially what the new world will be. So I kind of mapped it out into 2 key camps. So you've got camp 1, which is kind of, the people who are making these knee-jerk reactions right now, and then they decide everything needs to be digital, and they have lots of off-the-shelf digital stuff, and the content's very general and not specific, and they buy it because they're freaking out. But the reality is nobody really cares about the stuff what you just bought, because at the end of the day, we're going to put that content into an LMS, and we're going to maybe create some playlists, some video lists, or some typical click next e-learning, and we're going to hope that people go through it. But the reality of it is your people are now at home. So not only are you trying to take eyes away from a mobile, you're trying to take eyes away from Netflix and from Amazon Prime, because there's more things and people trying to get your attention now when you're working at home. So the reality of it is people will either click next on a video library, turn around and watch Netflix, or they'll just do what we do with, typical e-learning. And I guess in this cycle, somewhere along the line, someone would just suggest a MOOC, which we know, putting a MOOC into something never really works. And especially if you don't define actually what is the problem. And then you're going to this post-COVID world, and reality is when everyone comes out of this COVID situation, L&D will realize kind of, that digital stuff what we did didn't work. So let's get loads of classroom in. And people will like that because we've missed it, right? We've missed that social interaction. But that'll be the only reason why it really works. And then reality, what happens is the L&D function has brought in lots and lots of digital content, bloated the absolute hell out of their LMS. And then the business has to justify, the L&D has to justify why they bought all that stuff in the beginning. So then they'll try and force feed all this content into whatever else is going on within the business. And you just end up in this constant cycle, what we already know and what we already see.
Well, we've already experienced that pre-COVID over a longer period of time, right?
Exactly. So really what we do is, there's no new world, it's the same old. And then you have kind of this camp 2. And I think this camp 2 for me is kind of how you see first responders, right? If you have an ambulance pull up to a scene, the first thing they do is they assess it and go, right, who's bleeding out? We need to fix that first. So I kind of like it from that point of view of stop the bleed first, figure out what the stuff people need really, really quickly. Once you've done that, assess what's going on and actually start using this time to understand your people. Like, create little cohort groups and start doing, sense making of what's going on, what your people actually need, what they want, and try and start asking what their expectations are going back into work. And what is it they need? Are they anxious about work? Are they not anxious? How are we staying healthy? How are we communicating? All these little things. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to be really proactive. Because when we move through into this new world, we've set up for success, right? Like, at the end of the day, what we really want to be doing right now is starting mapping out the new journeys and the new touch points and the new experiences and expectations of our people. So that when we do come out of this, which we will come out, we'll be set up for success. Right now, we are going through the best experiment we can ever do. Every company is doing its own little mini experiments, which is perfect. What I would like to see is how people are collecting that data and sharing that with each other to say, this is how what's worked for us, this isn't, and kind of matching these expectations, what our people are going to come back into work with. It reminds me of this, there's a saying, and I probably won't do it justice, but no matter how many times you fail or how slow it takes you to do it, you're still way ahead of the people who aren't trying. And I think that's the best way to describe it. Camp one is the people who aren't trying and they're doing the same thing over and over and thinking that, this is the right way to do it. I mean, you've got camp two who are iterating, doing experiments, fixing stuff and going through it.
So what you're saying is camp one, knee-jerk reaction, camp two, just pausing before they dive in and trying to understand the situation and what their people need. And you said something to me recently about COVID being the ultimate trigger for experience design.
Yeah.
And I'm really keen, it all ties in, I'm really keen to just unpack that super quickly.
Cool. Okay, so when we do experience design, like we can do a few different ways, right? Sometimes we want to create experiences just to wow people and give them novel experiences. But most of the time when we do experience design, we want that to be the trigger to change behavior. Like that tends to be the main point of it. Now, sometimes we can force that and sometimes we can. And I think what we're seeing with kind of Corona right now is that's a forced experience change. This experience, what is happening, is going to change behavior. It's really simple. Like if I want people to be more healthy at work, I would literally put an out of order sign on the lift, and then people are only going to figure one way to get up there, right? They've got to go up the stairs. So there's ways to do experience design where you can force it, and actually there's ones where you can manipulate it. And this kind of COVID right now is a great example of it being forced. Like this experience is going to hopefully force behaviour change. And I think it's on us, after this experience has passed, to continue structuring that and helping that change happen. But I think what we might see is this experience happen and play out like it does play out. And then lots of companies will bring people back in and try and force them back into the world pre-COVID, which would be a massive shame.
It would be a shame. And I don't really see that there's any way back from this, but we would love to have you back on and in a couple of months' time when things have changed again, to kind of reflect a little bit on what you've put out there and what you're seeing. So will you come back and join us again sometime soon?
Yeah, cool. I'd love to.
Lovely. Danny Seals, thank you as always.
Cheers, Kate. Thank you.
The Happy Manifesto is a book that can help you transform your organisation into a happy, productive workplace where people feel fulfilled. We are now launching an online version of the programme based on bite-sized videos, exercises and learning points. It will launch in January on Udemy at just £50, and there'll be an enhanced version from Happy, which will include webinars and further exercises. Join us to help transform your organisation. I'm Henry, I'm happy, I hope you are too.
The irrepressible Robin Hoyle is back on the note. He's asking the L&D professional bodies to lobby government to give money for R&D to those organisations that have been decimated by the current pandemic, to help them deliver a better job and deliver better technology through learning. So a really useful use of research funds to support a very important initiative. Thank you, Robin.
I recorded my coronavirus piece at the beginning of March when I thought that actually it wouldn't necessarily have anything like the level and depth of impact that it currently has. So here I am on the 17th of March and virtually no face-to-face training is happening. People are sensibly being told not to congregate in groups, not to spend time travelling around the place to go to quote-unquote non-essential meetings. And what I see in the news is that the travel and leisure industry are asking for special consideration, that we have arts companies, sports venues, sports clubs also asking for special contributions, the high street generally saying we need government support. I haven't yet seen a single comment which talks about the training industry, and that bothers me. We are potentially one of the solutions and the roots out of the problem which has happened here. We can help people use that downtime productively if they are forced to work from home and not allowed to attend meetings. But we will need support. We will need government help to enable us to invest in the research and development opportunities when our cash flow has been decimated by the number of programs that have been postponed or cancelled. So I'm looking and asking for our representative bodies, the CIPD, the LPI and others, to make urgent representation to government to say the training industry is one of our best hopes for emerging out of the other side of what economic downturn the coronavirus causes. And that training industry may well not be there unless you, as a government, invest in and support over this very difficult period an industry which will be vital to our future health and well-being. So I'm asking for that support, and in the meantime, stay safe, everyone.
In the L&D world, we all know our biggest challenge is knowledge fade and demonstrating ROI from our training interventions. At Elephants Don't Forget, we use artificial intelligence to guarantee that what you train your employees, they learn and retain. If you are looking to transform the impact your training content has in your business, improve the ROI, and perhaps help employees learn and retain even the dull regulatory material, drop me a line at nelly@elephantsdon'tforget.com.
Next, MD of Creative Bubble Learning, Kathy Hoy, who I'm delighted we've managed to get onto the show after she said she was a bit nervous about recording video to me previously, but just goes to show that in these current times, you can really take advantage of the situation, and it's an opportunity to try new things. She's sharing with us how the current lockdown is changing how she works and learns from home.
So I'm working at home, I guess like everybody else at the moment, which actually for me isn't that unusual. I do tend to work a lot from home anyway, but this feels very different. I didn't realise how much I would miss sort of interacting with real people on a daily basis. So I'm finding that quite hard actually, and I don't think doing it virtually really makes up for it. Some things I have started doing though that are helping. So now probably kind of 2 weeks-ish of doing this, maybe a bit longer actually. I've decided to get more of a routine in place, just get a little bit more strict with things like time you get up, what hours you spend on work, making sure I phone people every single day, making sure I get exercise every single day. I think that sort of routine really helps. The other thing is I've decided to take up a hobby for the evenings and weekends. It might be a little bit ambitious, but I've decided to learn French and learn to play the piano. So fingers crossed there. And the other thing I think is just to make sure that I do communicate with people every day via video, whether that's colleagues or customers during the daytime or if it's friends and family in the evening. And I do find that helps. It's not the same, but it does help. Something I did the other evening actually with a couple of friends was we sort of basically had a bit of a virtual pub, which effectively meant we spent an hour and a half on a video call drinking wine. But that was good, it kept us sane. And another thing I've been trying during the day is one of the walkie-talkie apps that are available. So Zello is one that I'm using, but it's great. You can leave a channel open and a number of your colleagues or friends or family can join the same channel and you can just talk to each other all day. So that's quite helpful too. So hope that helps someone.
Studies have shown that learning programs are now crucial weapons in the fight to attract and retain talent. Working closely with modern learning organisations across the globe, we have developed Learning Programs of Excellence, a prestigious award recognising exceptional, state-of-the-art learning programs. If you're a learning department or function, LPE will help you attract new talent. You'll boost your appeal as an employer by showcasing the calibre of your learning programs and development opportunities within your organisation. If you're a provider of learning, LPE gives you an absolute guarantee that your learning programs are capable of creating a lasting positive effect on performance and business outcomes. Get in touch with the Learning and Performance Institute now and begin your learning program of excellence journey.
My name's Adam Harwood. I'm a digital learning partner at ASOS. If you're looking for a learning tool that will really influence what people are doing and make a real difference, then look no further than Loop. These guys genuinely know what they're doing, and it's really helped me improve and develop as a digital learning partner. Get involved with Loop today.
Rob Clark from Learning News has been out and about. He's been capturing some of the insights of learning leaders about how they're responding to the current pandemic. So he's talking to a range of people about a range of issues, all focusing on the most important thing that's in the forefront of everybody's minds. What are you doing to help your people cope? And what is happening to learning in your organization? Excellent work, Rob.
Learning News over the last few days has reached out to the learning industry's leaders and gathered the immediate responses from the businesses in our sector. First, I spoke with Ed Monk, CEO of the Learning and Performance Institute. I started by asking him about the enormous changes affecting learning professionals around the world.
Ensuring that people can still learn, despite the restrictions on movement, is our challenge. It is a lot of pressure for learning professionals, but I know that we're creative and we're resilient, and this is a time for that creativity to come to the fore and for all of us to work together. We need to come together, we need to help each other and show those skills that we've shown so well over however many years we've been in this profession.
What I'm seeing from people, how they're responding, and the communications that are coming out from the companies in our sector, I've personally been seeing some inspirational moments of leadership from people supporting their workers, paying their suppliers, doing the right thing, trying to lead with great humanity. And you must be seeing that too, Ed.
I really am, Rob. Yeah, it's pretty heartening, actually, in a devastating situation like this for so many. It is incredible to see. I honestly believe that these kind of situations bring out the best in people.
Practically, what can we be doing next as a sector?
Yeah, it's difficult, but we need to be ensuring that we have the right technology in place. We have to do that. Technology is going to play a major part for learning professionals to support our colleagues. We need to ensure that learning teams have the right skills in place to support our colleagues. And that is skills around technology, but also interpersonal skills, communication skills in this new world. Trainers, the wider learning profession, are often the reason why people choose to join companies. How will I develop? How will you get me to where I want to be in my career? The world has changed, Rob, in a matter of days, and our educators are core to us getting through this, I believe. They're not a luxury, they are a necessity.
Earlier, I spoke to Andy Moss, CEO of the corporate learning arm for City and Guilds.
We have teams in the UK, in Europe, in France, etc., teams in North America and teams in Australia and Pacific region. So teams around the world. And so first focus has just been on ensuring that everyone feels properly supported, has the time and the space to deal with both, the personal situations we're all living through. I've got 2 young kids who will be out of school. So trying to work through the reality of the personal situations as much as anything, just make sure everyone's safe and secure. Everyone's set up to work remotely if that's appropriate. We work a lot with further education colleges and private training providers. So a huge amount of uncertainty that we're all navigating, frankly. And I think what's heartening for me, actually, if I have to look at the glimmers of hope through all of this, is the way that the connections are working. People are really leaning in, really supporting one another.
Are you getting any sort of feeling for what your customers are actually going to need you to do next?
Our customers are dealing with the same uncertainty we are. So first and foremost, making sure their employees are safe, connected, engaged. where I think where we are seeing a lot of need for support is getting things out rapidly. So e-learning kind of micro courses, on how you manage health and wellness, how you manage personal health and safety, how you start to think about leading in a virtual environment as a different form of leading. So that need to rapidly get some learning and development into their teams around that, which is something obviously we've got a lot of focus on. Getting platforms in place, frankly. So what are the platforms we're going to use that we can use to stay connected in this new kind of virtual world that we're in? We've all got a very important part to play right now, because I'd argue there's never been a greater need for support, for education, for training, development.
Many learning organisations are used to working remotely and operate digitally, so they're well placed to help with all of the technical, practical and human aspects of remote working.
Where we are really concentrating is on the human side. There's this rush to get everybody sorted with their laptops so they can work from home, but there's not enough conversation, we don't think, happening around the more human aspect. So that is coping with isolation, how do you get a structure when you're working from home all the time, and how can you make sure that people are collaborating in a way that makes sense, when before they could just wander over to somebody else's desk.
Everybody's in the time right now of getting practical. So they're practically getting used to the new working from home regime.
For some people, it'll be completely new. For some people, quite a lot of people, it's something that they do now and again. But it's about giving them some guidance just to make sure that they're doing it in a sort of practical and sort of healthy way, because I think we all get, if we are working from home occasionally, we fall into bad practices. We're perching on the end of something, we don't, a desk, or we don't have the right setup. How do you work with kids from home? So having that dedicated space.
Little things like get up, get dressed, get your makeup on, do what you need to do, get practical stuff done so that you're still having a working day. I think it's all too easy to maybe want to sit about in the pajamas, but I think even just those practical things about getting your head on for work as well.
The e-learning sector is responding by helping traditional training companies to get online.
Businesses' main challenge is how do they take that face-to-face delivery, that content that they'd naturally be delivering at training sessions, and deliver it in an online format. Lots of organisations that we work with are not necessarily used to doing this. It doesn't come naturally, and hopefully we can do our part at First Media to help organisations take the opportunity, look at delivering things differently, and really keep things moving. That's our key message is how can we keep things moving?
What would you say to the training centre that's just closed and all their people are now at home? What are the essential steps that they can take to get their business back and running as quickly as possible?
Don't overcomplicate this. Yeah, we can keep it really simple. We don't have to have full-blown e-learning courses. That's a longer-term goal.
That's all for this news review. A huge thanks to everyone who took the time to send in their responses, and especially to those who got to grips quickly with doing interviews from their kitchens for this programme. Check out all the latest news on the Learning News website and our Twitter at LNWire.
Well, that's the end of the show. I hope it was useful. I hope you get some real practical insights that you can put in place. We're trying to support you. Kate, what else have we got? We've got no events to highlight.
No offence, but we are busy rescheduling the series of interviews we would have been doing in the studio. But we'd also like to hear from you, our viewers, our community. How has life changed for you? How has work changed for you? What are you doing differently? How is your organisation responding to the current crisis and the current situation? So if you'd like to send us a short 2-minute video, the address is on screen now.